We recently wrote an article detailing Microsoft Polaris. What is it? Today I'll tell you as we do a deep dive to Microsoft's future roadmap. Stay tuned. Okay, if you haven't seen the article yet, make sure you head to Windows Central, or we'll link the article in the description below. Zach Bowden, our senior editor for Windows Central, did an excellent article detailing what Microsoft Polaris is and some of the future roadmap stuff for Microsoft. Before we dive into Polaris, let's talk about Windows Core OS. So this is the future of Windows. Now, this is going to be a process. It won't launch all at once. In fact, what they're going to do is put it into a few products going forward. One of these versions is going to be Andromeda. That's probably coming out in the fall. That's the foldable device. Another version is Polaris, and that's going to be for desktop PCs and laptops. It's the more traditional form factor. Now, what makes Windows Core OS different is this. Starting back with Windows 8, Microsoft unified its core system under one core. That's the kernel system and the base layer of the operating system. This was across PC, mobile, Xbox, and all their devices, and it was a pretty big step towards a unified operating system. But it actually wasn't completely unified. Instead, it was just the kernel layer, but the middle stuff was still independent. So Windows Mobile was its own operating system, separate from PC, which is why we saw different development branches for both operating systems. It's also why, fundamentally, you couldn't run Win32 apps on a phone. They were just different systems altogether. Now, what did connect them, of course, was UWP, the Universal Windows Platform, so that you can think of that as the top layer for applications. So all those were linked together and shared components. And that was a big step. So you had the bottom layer that was united and the top layer that was kind of united, but the stuff in between was different. You also had, of course, the shell, the stuff that you would actually interact with. So you have the Windows 10 desktop, which you know and are familiar with, and then on mobile, you had its own interface, and those were just different shells altogether. This is going to be combined into C Shell, the composable shell layer coming with Windows Core OS. It's going to be a flexible UI that is adaptable to its circumstance. You can kind of think of this as Continuum being built into the operating system so that it can dynamically adjust based on the device it's going to be used on. Now, the difference with Windows Core OS is now we're talking about the middle layer. So there is no Windows 10 Mobile anymore because that mobile operating system has been discontinued. Instead, what Microsoft has done is folded the mobile stuff into Windows proper, and you have now Windows Core OS, which can do all that stuff. But more importantly, Windows Core OS is going to start ditching legacy support for older systems. This is why you're starting to see Microsoft bring a lot of the old settings into the new control panel. They're basically abandoning ship. They're getting as much of the old stuff into the new system as possible because eventually all that stuff will be jettisoned. So yes, no more fax machine built into Windows anymore. I'm sorry, folks, you will have to move on. Now, before everybody gets into a panic, I should mention Windows Core OS will be able to do Win32. It's not entirely clear which path they're going to take, but emulation layers is one. There's also containers. There's also app streaming through the cloud, which is becoming more of a scenario that companies are adopting. Either way, there will be a solution here for running Win32, but that won't be the primary system. You can think of Windows Core OS as effectively being an entire UWP operating system. So for those who think UWP is dead, I hate to tell you, Microsoft is actually going very deep into this. The entire operating system is based around UWP, and in fact, that's what's going to run through the store, including Centennial apps. So no, UWP is not dead. It's actually very much here to stay. All right, so let's talk about Polaris. What is it? Well, it is the desktop version. It's the alternative to Andromeda, which is built around mobile. Polaris will be for desktop, specifically laptops and light computing devices, but eventually desktop. And yes, Microsoft sees this as a long-term push to replace desktop operating systems with this. It's going to be modern, it's going to be fast, it'll be efficient, it'll be lightweight, and it'll be very secure. The best part here, though, is it will look like Windows 10 to you. The outside layer, the shell, is going to look exactly what it does today, although there will be incremental improvements as Microsoft is always toying around with moving stuff around the taskbar. So the next question is when to expect this. Well, we don't really expect this to launch until sometime in 2019, and again, it will only come on new devices. You'll sort of see light computing laptops come out with this as a version of the operating system. I should also point out that Microsoft is not going to push this out as an update. So if you're running Windows 10 Pro on your PC and you absolutely love it, it's not going to be suddenly replaced with this. All those legacy systems will continue to exist and get the support as needed. In fact, Windows 10 Pro is not going anywhere for what are obvious reasons: enterprise, schools, hospitals, and maybe yes, you, the gamer and the pro user, still want to use that old legacy system with all those Win32 apps and all those services you are familiar with. So that will stick around, and you'll continue to see devices on the market that are pro-level devices running Windows 10 Pro. So don't worry there. What Polaris and Windows Core OS is meant for is this new generation of light computing. If you've been following Chromebooks a lot, Chromebooks are growing in markets all around the world, especially in education in the United States, but it's also growing in other markets. And you're starting to see a lot of people in the tech press talk about how they can start to use Chromebooks as their daily devices, because a lot of people live in the browser. A lot of people just run about 3 or 4 apps, and that is really it. Now, for you people who run AutoCAD or are doing video processing, obviously we're not talking about you. We're talking about general consumers. When you look at that market, Microsoft needs something there that is both modern and efficient. The problem with Win32 is it's a legacy system. It bogs down everything. It's also a virus threat. Windows Core OS is going to jettison all that stuff, and it's their answer to what is Chromebook. And even Apple has to deal with this too. A lot of rumors are saying they're going to put iOS at some point onto a laptop, which makes sense when you think about the MacBook Air and what it is used for, which is light computing. I'm sorry to say, if you're watching this video, you're really not the demographic here for this, at least not right now. Polaris is meant for general consumers. If you're watching this video, you're probably an advanced user who needs pro-level devices or who likes to hack things or even just do really advanced work on their PCs. But for a lot of the general consumers out there, there's a reason why Chromebooks are suddenly becoming enticing. Most people live in a browser, specifically Chrome, unfortunately. But they also just run 3 or 4 apps, whether it's Microsoft Word or a Photos app or email. There's only a couple of things that they're doing with these devices here. Microsoft's in a position to leverage that by jettisoning a lot of that legacy stuff that's been holding them back. Now, they're not getting rid of this for everybody. Like I said, Win32 will stick around. And even in this case, for Windows Core OS and Polaris, there will be ways to continue to run Windows 32 in a modern way. But they do have to move forward here. The idea that in 2025, we're all going to be running Win32 apps, I think is a little bit far-fetched for the average consumer. We want fast mobile devices, instant on, long battery life, fast and efficient, secure, easy to find what you need. And Microsoft needs to bring Windows forward, and that's what Polaris does. Now, like I said, don't expect Microsoft to announce any of this stuff, not for a while. I expect Andromeda to be the first version of Windows Core OS that you'll actually see, and it'll be in a foldable device that's mobile. So the idea here of Win32 apps is not as important, but Polaris will be one step. I should also mention there are other versions of this for differing platforms. So for Windows Mixed Reality and HoloLens, there will be a Windows Core OS for that, as well as Surface Hub, and even, yes, Xbox. So that is what we know so far about Polaris and Windows Core OS. Now, if you like this topic, make sure you follow Zach Bowden on Twitter, ZACBOWDEN, as he's the one that broke this story. You can also ping him and ask him some questions. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. We recently wrote an article detailing Microsoft Polaris. What is it? Today I'll tell you about Microsoft's plans. Let's go. Oh, let's go. We recently detailed an article. No, Jesus, this is off today.